Hey folks, it's Michael with the CCERP podcast. Hope you're doing well, enjoying the outdoors. Get out, get with the trees, get with the animals, get with nature, get with the ecology. Integrate, connect. That's what ecology's about. Connect, connect, connect. So today, in that vein, what we're going to do is learn about tracking animals, nature a little bit with the certified tracker, Beau Harger. Did I pronounce that right, Beau?
Harger.
Harger? Okay, I butchered it. Sweet.
No, you think it's good enough.
Dang, Beau Harger. Okay. So, could you introduce yourself to the folks, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Beau Harger, and I live here in Houston, Texas. I am a compounding pharmacist. That's my profession, but I enjoy just getting in the outdoors. I enjoy nature, wildlife, and all that it has to offer to us. I've been tracking or studying tracks for about 8 years.
Cool.
I've just always enjoyed the outdoors. Growing up, going to my great aunt had basically a house in rural Mississippi, and kind of grew up going there. I lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and so always enjoyed going out to the country and hunting with my dad, and just had a certain peace being out in the wilderness and the woods. Just always enjoyed the woods. And so that's probably, one of the reasons I've gotten into tracking is just kind of the feeling of being in the outdoors and the peace it brings.
Yeah, true. Amen.
So,
nice.
But I got into tracking when I lived in Austin, and there was a wilderness school called Earth Native Wilderness School. Mm-hmm. And the guy that runs it, his name is Dave Scott. And I started taking classes out there just to kind of immerse myself in more skills, more wilderness type skills. And, took like a natural camouflage class, made my own bow, made my own knife.
Neat.
They had all kinds of really cool classes, and Dave called me up one day and he said, "Do you want to take one of our intensive classes," which was like a long-term 8-month class. And he was a specialist, and so a specialist tracker is a designation from the Cybertracker Evaluation system. There's only 30. I counted today on their website. There's only 37 in the country. And he and so that was his forte, was tracking. So I did an 8-month when I say 8 month, it's 1 weekend a month. 1 weekend a month for 8 months, and we go to different parts of Texas, and so I really had the proper teaching to immerse myself in the subject matter. And so after the 8 months, he asked me to be an assistant teacher because he saw that I had kind of more of an interest in this. And so anyway, that's how I got started in the tracking world. So,
cool. And what was the name of the school again?
Earth Native Wilderness School.
Okay. And what was the name of the guy again?
Dave Scott.
Cool. I'm a little tired, so it's not like sinking in right away as it normally would. Okay, so. Cool. That sounds awesome. I'd like to do some stuff like that. Sometimes it's tough with having to work on weekends, but sometimes.
Yeah. They have some good, it's mainly weekend classes, and they offer all kinds of different things from, tanning to medicinal plants. That's another interest I have, being a pharmacist. And
yeah,
I always thought, it was cool just watching, Westerns and seeing the Indian kind of looking at tracks and saying, oh, a horse came through here 2 days ago, and I always thought that was just super cool how an Indian, Native American could read the ground and read that language. Also thought, super cool when, you have the Indian in there mixing in the mortar and pestle, the little herb mix, and applying it to the guy's wound, and all of a sudden he's healed. And so I've studied that for several years as well, like native pharmacy and native plant medicine.
Cool.
So I guess I have kind of a affinity for, Native American skills as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's good that some of that's in the culture, part of the education. Some of that's what got me interested too.
Right.
Just those things about the competence at living in the real world, not shielded or protected in bubble wrap from nature.
That's right. Engaging nature, and it just brings something out in your core being that we really can't explain. Humans have been reading tracks. In fact, it's arguably one of the first skills we had was being able to read tracks, because we needed to know the stories that were taking place around us, whether it be for hunting reasons or, danger, being on top of potential danger, potential threats. So reading the ground was like reading Facebook back in the day. And,
but without so many arguments and
of,
quarrels and hatred, and
that's right.
It was actually more informative and things like that, and you're connected to the world and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's like, in other words, basically, the only similarity is it's what a lot of people did. Other than that,
that's right. Well,
thank goodness it's different.
That brings me to the other thing. Like when you're tracking, opinions go out the door. So you're using, your primary perception, and you're reading what's on the ground, putting your biases aside. I mean, we all come to life with our biases based on experiences that we've had. And so when you come to a track, the track is what it is, and the analysis is what it is. And so it teaches you to put away biases, to look at the shapes on the ground, and try not to name the animal, but describe what you see instead of what you want to see. And so it teaches us a lot of things about life in terms of, what is the evidence, not what I want the evidence to be, but what is the evidence. And so it allows us to come to conclusions based on evidence, not on based on our biases. So it really teaches us a lot about that, as well as like paying attention to detail. A lot of people are not detail oriented by nature, but a lot of life is looking at details. And as we get better with tracking, we look more and more into the details of what's presented on the ground.
Yeah, I don't know, it'd be kind of hard to say people aren't detailed oriented, some by nature, because of the society we live in. If they lived in a culture where they had to do that and they were trained that way, then I think more people would be detail oriented. And I think, just epistemologically, I think it's all part and parcel of the way we should function properly. Sometimes it's hard to say some things, I think, because there's so many artifacts about the culture that get in the way of saying what human nature is. Psychology and social trends and education and all this other stuff. Takes a lot more study of history and all this stuff to really get down deep about what's essential and what's not. But different topic, different day. But yeah, it's one thing I love about the tracking is in biology, doing it right, start science on a proper foundation instead of just words and books and someone's opinion. I think the culture would be better off. Science would be functioning a lot better if tracking and foraging were starting points. In fact, something like that is deliberate in Montessori education, starting with training the senses so students can learn to be like independent scientists, not just go on someone else's word, but know how to use your senses and how to pay attention and how to find differences and similarities, instead of just starting with words and turning away from the evidence of the senses. Tracking's awesome like that.
Yeah,
does a good job.
I've always thought it would be cool to teach these skills on a larger scale, or to have these offered as a larger scale to our younger kids. I think that would be very, very helpful, and get them away from the PlayStations. That's for sure.
Yeah. Get them outdoors.
There you go.
So many Americans are deficient in vitamin D.
Yeah.
Joints aren't in good shape. Poor posture. All this stuff. And it's not the individual American's fault. It's just the culture we live in and how we're kind of conditioned by furniture. And, some teachers, a lot of teachers are great. They love it. They're doing their best. But it's just some things about the culture that
that's right.
Don't let them be able to do the job that they want.
Absolutely.
But any interesting stories from when you were young about tracking or anything, being outdoors and getting lost or anything like that?
I've gotten lost. I didn't really know about tracking when I was younger, but I can tell you that I've been lost in the woods before turkey hunting, and it wasn't fun. And I wished I would have known. I wished I would have known tracking back then. I don't know how we found our way, but a buddy and we got lost, and we didn't go far from the truck, but it's so easy. It's so easy to get lost when you don't know what you're doing.
True.
So, but once that's the good thing about tracking is you think about things and you read stories that otherwise you would have never come to realize, and it's just it opens your eyes, it increases your awareness so much that that you see things that others don't see, and it's just really neat. It's just a skill that a lot of people have, or that modern society just can't really relate to anymore. So,
do you got some examples of that, like you seeing things that other people haven't or don't, or people who are certifying you and know a lot more when you're first starting, seeing things that you didn't?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just a simple, walk, next to a river or under a bridge, or, just going hiking with my wife, and I think I've taught my wife to be like a level 1 tracker.
Oh, sweet.
Just all the different things, because just all the different things, you see on the ground. Anything from, the time that I've put into the subject matter. We're tracking things from, deer mice up to river otters,
Cool.
you know, and seeing marks made by insects, by reptiles, turtles, you know, knowing that there are river otters swimming underneath the Sugarland Bridge, you know, you have the awareness. I mean, you can just go under, let's see, one of my favorite tracking spots here in Houston. It's in Sugarland. And I mean, I can tell you that I've seen and this is in the middle of the city, I've seen hog, deer, river otter, raccoon, skunk, deer mice, turtle, alligator, nutria, armadillo, bobcat, coyote. I mean, this is just in the middle of the city.
And this is just the tracks, right? Track and sign, not the actual animal. Yeah.
Yeah, just track and sign.
Cool.
And so, just being able to know, like when to know what's moving around you, and modern society just, doesn't have any idea of the stories that are occurring around us.
Then when you got those thinking skills, you can use those in society too to avoid human predators. Not to knock predators. Predators are awesome. I love them. We need them. But the human right. ones, not so good.
Yeah.
Other predators are true to their nature. Human predators are not true to their nature. Abominations of nature. But if you're aware of who's doing what, the smells, the signs, you're going to be safer.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a process that occurs in your brain. And one of the things that we try to do as trackers is ask questions on a continual basis till we can't figure out the answers. In other words, you might have seen 5,000 raccoon tracks, but and it's very easy to take a look at a track and just go on your way. But it's good to check in with that track and say, why was this animal here? Where is this animal now? What was he doing? How old are these tracks? Trying to get into the mind of the animal. And so then that gets your mind and your subconscious going. And a lot of times you end up answering those questions, maybe not getting the answer to the question right off, but for some reason in the future, you get the answer to those questions.
Yeah.
I was, as it is a process and it takes a long time to, it does take a long time to get truly proficient. And I can't say that I'm truly proficient. I'm, on my way, but I was looking through some pictures, not long ago, and I was journaling some of my tracking days, and I remember being very confused about this one track, which I thought was a nutria track, and I knew it wasn't a beaver track, and I thought it was a nutria hindfoot, but I just really wasn't confident. And I remember writing that down in my journal, and this was several years back. Well, I went back to those pictures that I had taken that day, and it was totally obvious that they were alligator.
Yeah.
So it's like, over time you start to figure out the stories that you couldn't figure out at that particular time. And there's definitely been many examples of that where you just can't figure out the story. And then later on down the line, it comes to you or you figure it out. And that's what's cool about tracking, And
it's important to do it yourself. You have to, but also, I shouldn't say but, do it yourself in addition learn from specialists, see what's available, because there are things possible to you that you might not even consider at the beginning. It could be, oh, here's
Absolutely.
a raccoon track. Oh, here's a possum track. But then you learn, whoa, some people can tell, like, if it's male or female, and they can tell sometimes how old it is or which way it was looking. You can look at the track and see which way the animal was looking. Oh my, like, or if it was carrying something. Whoa, you know?
Yeah. I mean, especially at first, I highly recommend working with somebody, because you need to be able to get confirmation on what you're thinking and confirmation on the track and everything. There's a point where you can, once you reach a certain level, you can track on your own. But especially at the beginning, you know, it happens so much quicker if you get the proper teaching from an experienced tracker. You can do it on your own, but it takes so long. You have to have a lot of persistence, spend a lot of time outdoors. But if you want to learn the skill quick, I definitely recommend seeking out somebody who's an experienced tracker, because you need that confirmation on tracks, you know, quick and easy. So,
is that part of why you got certified?
No, really. So the certification program is something that Earth Native would host every year. And so being that I, you know, had taken the 8-month intensive, it was a natural kind of progression to take the evaluation. I mean, anybody can take the evaluation. And in fact, they encourage people with, you know, little to no experience to take the evaluation, because it's basically a workshop. The evaluators teach you so much. Michael, you should take it. I mean, I think you have enough,
thanks,
you know, knowledge to
finally
to go ahead.
Yeah, I need to.
I think you could probably get a level 1, honestly.
Oh, sweet, thanks.
From what I see from all your posts and everything.
Sweet.
But yeah, so it's just a great experience. Earth Native has it every year, and so anybody can host an evaluation, but you know, there's a cost to it. And if you go to trackercertification.com, it shows all the details on it. But you know, different wilderness schools will have these every year, and then there's also the specialist evaluations. I'm actually going to be taking one next week in San Diego.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. And so the specialist evaluations, there are no like clear tracks. So everything is complex or difficult spore, they called it. And so and a lot of it's, you know, awkward sign, like feeding sign and skull identification, but everything is what they see out in the wild. Nothing is planted, nothing is you know, they just go to an area with a lot of wildlife, and these evaluators are amazing, and how they can pick up, you know, these tracks and signs so quick to even ask the question. I mean, to me, that's even more phenomenal than getting, you know, specialists. I mean, just to find the stuff. So, but yeah, so you have to get 100% on a specialist test to become a specialist. Now, there are some bonus questions that if you miss, I think you can miss 2 questions, and then if you get there's like 7 bonuses, and if you get all the bonuses, you can make up for 2 missed questions. So, but it's intense, and I've taken 2 of them already. I think I got a 90.5 on one and a 94.5 on the other, but you need still far away from 100.
Yeah.
Still far away. So, and you can study for these things forever. I mean, you have to know the tracks, the feeding sign, the scats, the skulls, and any other kind of particulars about that species. So the first thing you do is you develop a species list of that area, and then you kind of go through those factors, to study for it. So cool. It's amazing how much time I put into this hobby that I don't get paid for.
Yeah, labor of love.
Yeah, it's a labor of love.
But so you're certified. You're at level 3 now.
Yeah, level 3, which is there's actually 4 levels to an introductory evaluation. Level 3 is between if you score between a 90 and a 99 on just a standard evaluation, that's a level 3. A level 4 is if you make 100% on a standard evaluation. Most of your level 3s, once they get level 3, then they'll go to, your specialist evals, which they have 2 evaluators, and all the sign is complex. If they see skulls out there, they'll ask you that. If they see cheating signs, scats, nests, sign on acorns. It's all over the place. So
cool. What's and you did CyberTracker?
Yeah. So CyberTracker it's basically like the institution that puts on these tests. The CyberTracker, it's a weird name because it kind of you think like, okay, is this a computer deal, with the cyber thing? But it's based out of South Africa. A guy named Louis Leuenberg, who's hacker. I think he's kind of the origin of this whole program. But he developed a CyberTracker system, and I don't know all the details, but he worked with the Bushmen over in Africa to record tracks and sign out in the field using handheld computer, like Palm computers. And he did it to these Bushmen were not literate, so he used different symbols on these on their little personal computers to document tracks, and so it was a way to kind of get them to be involved in conservation, as well as to monitor the skills and to look at the skills of these trackers. And then he started developing certifications to work on the team. And so I'm not real clear on all the details, but that's kind of how it all started. And then Mark Elbrock, he's the author of all the most accurate tracking books, Mammals Track and Sign. He brought the system over to America, and that was like in the late 90s, early 2000s, I think. And so it kind of has started to gain steam.
Cool.
From there.
Are there other organizations that certify trackers?
I don't think there are. I've never seen one.
Wow. And so what's involved in level 1?
So basically a level 1, so you take the standard, and if you take the standard eval, and if you get between a 69 and a 79%, you would achieve a level 1 designation. Now, so the questions, it's a 2-day eval, and you probably have about 60 to 70 questions total throughout the 2 days. And they're based on difficulty. So let's say I see a deer track, a clear deer track in the mud, and I can see all the details of the deer track. That would be a easy track that would be designated as an easy spoor. So the weight of that, if I got it right, I would get 1 check. If I got it wrong, I'd get 3 X's against me. So it's based on the difficulty of the tracks you see. So not all questions have the same weight, if that makes sense. So a very difficult track or sign would give you 3 checks or 3 points in your favor, and if you missed it, you would only have 1 point against you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's based on the weight of the questions.
So if you're out somewhere and, raccoons must have free will, because sometimes they deliberately leave a track where they don't show one of their toes. It looks like they have 4.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bobcat.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bobcat. No, you just can't see the other toe.
Yeah. Yep. They're notorious for that. Notorious for that. Yeah. So if a difficult raccoon track, that looks like a bobcat track, would probably be a level 3 question, which would give you, 3 points if you got it, and it would go. And if you missed it, you'd have 1 point against you.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
So.
And then, what about level 2?
Level 2, you have to get between an 80 and an 89% on the test, and so, it's just going to be your final score, based on all the different questions.
Oh, so it's like everyone does the same test, but it's just the score you get determines your level. Yeah, okay.
That's it. That's exactly correct.
Cool.
Exactly correct.
And then what about, there's no problem with, let's say, if you've gotten level 3 and you just want to take it again and you don't care about getting certified just to refresh and everything, they still let you do that?
Oh, yeah. You can take it as many times as you want.
Cool.
You could take it each year if you wanted. I think I've taken the standard evaluation 3 or 4 times, and I've taken 2 specialists. So I've taken like 6 of these things. And they're super, super educational. I mean, they're kind of stressful if you put stress on yourself like I do. But you can go in there with no, I mean, when I say they're stressful, it's because I'm trying to get the best grade I want,
Yeah.
But, and the better you know the material, you should be less stressed. So I'm kind of getting there, but it's taken some time. But if you go in there just you want to learn, I mean, it's a great experience, and I think it's a great experience anyway, because you have some of the best trackers. You could make the case these are some of the best trackers in the world,
Cool.
teaching you about tracking.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have any background at all to go into these evals. You just show up, and
cool.
Everybody is willing to help you and the whole thing. So
nice. How many people usually, on average, like from 5 to 20 or whatever, how many people usually are there at a eval? Students?
I think they cap it at 10.
Cool.
10 participants. And what happens is they'll usually mark off like 3 or 4 questions and then let everybody go through and answer them. You have as much time as you'd like on each question. It's not timed within reason. So they'll mark off four tracks. Everybody goes in, writes down their answers. You'll show it to the person designated for recording everything, and then they'll go on to 4 or 5 other questions or 3 next questions, and so it's they're full days, but you leave just knowing so much. It's just such an educational time.
Mm-hmm. Do you get to ask questions much, or how does that work?
Absolutely. You can ask any questions you want. The evaluators are just so good about, making sure you're clear on everything. Cool. You can, if you think it's something, if you can actually contest, if I think something is, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be right.
Yeah.
But you can actually say, like, I'd like to, contest this. I think it's this. And then you can have a discussion, and then, their philosophy is everybody needs to be in agreement on what it is by the time that discussion ends.
Cool.
So, these guys are so good, they're going to be right most of the time, but a lot of times in tracking, you feel like maybe, you're pretty certain, and you want to say, hey, that's a coyote track and not a dog track,
Mm-hmm.
So
then what I think sometimes, although not until the specialist level, sometimes someone actually convinces one of the instructors that it's something else.
Not
very often, but yeah.
Yeah, every now and then you can at least make it a doubtful case,
mm-hmm.
to where they might throw out the question.
Mm-hmm.
If you can present enough evidence, they may throw out the question. It doesn't happen often because they're just they're so good,
And there's two of them, right? It's a specialist.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I've seen it happen, but it's so rare. It's so rare.
Cool. Yeah. And it's good though. It's like some people might not look at that properly, but the proper perspective to look at that, I think, is seeing that they're honest and objective to admit that they're wrong. When people are wrong and they don't admit it, then I do not trust them. I trust people who are right in general, but say, oh, look, I was wrong on this. Here's why, and here's what I should have said and what I believe now. Because then that they're looking, they're curious, they're looking for their mistakes, they're willing to admit them, and they're actually going to correct them instead of leaving you clueless or wrong about something and not caring.
That's right. I mean, humility, I would say, is one of the primary characteristics of a tracker, because he's got to be able to understand his limitations. If he's wrong, he admits it. You're not always going to be right. I mean, there's so much out there that we don't know and that we haven't figured out, and that the world presents so much sign on the ground that is open to, interpretation. And so humility is an important characteristic of a tracker. And even the best trackers will tell you, sometimes there are dog tracks that look like coyote tracks.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be sure. And here's the most basic thing, coyote versus dog. But it's tough. It can be tough out there. There are dog tracks that don't show claws. They look aerodynamic. The pad looks high versus wide. It looks just like a coyote. And sometimes you don't have enough information to make that call. And some of the best trackers will tell you that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Good. Anything else involved in getting certified? Studying, working with someone, going to do the thing?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, to me, it's like you have your dirt time, which is time out in the looking at tracks. And then you have, study time, which is looking at, having the best resources. And by far, it's Mammal Tracks and Sign by Mark L. Brock. That is the premier reference for tracks. There's also, he also has a bird tracks and sign. And so there's one on insects. There's one for reptiles that I have too as well. So there's a lot of good references out there. But between, looking at tracks, whether it be iNaturalist or Mammal Tracks and Sign, or there's another one, California, or Animal Tracks and Scat of California is really good too as well. And then also pairing that with Dirt Time, with experienced trackers, or if you're at a level where you can self-teach yourself, which is pretty rare. Those two things kind of get you to where you can get certified,
Cool. And then nowadays, you can take advantage of some distance learning, internet learning, like CyberTracker has inexpensive, $35? Is it them or someone else has a $35 intro course? You familiar with that? Or am I not saying enough?
There is a course out there that I just saw. There are some tracking courses out there. I don't know I think they're kind of brand new courses. I'm not totally familiar, but yeah, exactly. There's some legit tracking courses out there that you can do online. But nothing takes the place of Dirt Time.
Yeah.
You can get a decent, foundation, but it looked so different on the ground. And sometimes I'll look at pictures and I'll be like, I just can't really get a good feel on the size of it and everything. But if it's in person, I can, I'm pretty confident. But sometimes pictures play tricks on you. So.
And I think the way we process and perceive, if it's out in the real world, then there's all this automatic processing going on at a subconscious level. There's all this neurological stuff about sand grains nearby, comparing to that, pine needles.
That's right.
Leaves, different kinds of leaves, everything else.
Absolutely.
Then when you're a paper, it's good. It's very important. It helps, no doubt, 100%. As you're saying, there's a difference, though, in the real world. The lighting's always different depending on the time of day. Are you on a trail in the woods? How does it smell? How's the rain? How's the feel of the moisture in the air? So many different factors come into play.
Yes.
Like you said, they're important. What are some others that come up? Like some factors that would make it vary from a picture?
Substrate. Substrate, shadowing. Size can be deceiving to me. I always say, like, if you're going to send me a picture to take a look at, make sure you put a ruler next to it, because if I don't have something, a size reference, it's hard for me to tell. I mean, there are many domestic cats that look just like bobcats if in different substrate. They always say skill over substrate. And maybe the domestic cat is very splayed and you're seeing more negative space. And so unless I have some type of size reference, it's hard for me to be absolutely sure on confirming what you're seeing on the ground. So to me, it's more size than anything, so, I mean, even a penny can help, but, I always carry a ruler with me, when I track. I never not have a ruler.
Cool.
And, I always have a ruler. So.
Yeah. And then the substrate, in case some folks are wondering, that's just the surface, the kind of dirt.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And the texture.
So, I mean, depending on
the color.
Yeah.
that affects things? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, even the time of day, so like early in the morning and late in the afternoon, the shadows are pretty much in your favor as far as seeing detail in tracks.
Mm-hmm.
But once the sun gets above you, like noon, early afternoon, it kind of, a lot of the shadows you don't get to see, so a lot of the detail gets left out. So you'll notice, and then the other thing is always shade your pictures. Like you don't want your pictures to be in the sun. If you can kind of shade your pictures, in other words, put yourself, in front of the camera to where you're shading the track, that will give you more detail in your pictures. So
yeah,
so that helps.
Then sometimes out in nature doing the dirt time, you'll see stuff that doesn't come up in a book picture, like having a few leaves in the track and stuff like that, or branches that kind of might seem to change the shape or whatever.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing, is aging tracks. That's a whole nother skill. Aging is basically, to be good at aging, you have to know the weather. You have to know the weather in the area. If a tracker says he can tell you what specific time that track was made, he's pretty good, because not your best trackers are going to be able to give you general ideas of when the track was made, but not necessarily the actual time. So for instance, like, if a track was made before rain, we know we can see raindrops in the track. So we can make that conclusion. But if we see a new looking track in the ground and we know that, or it hasn't, in other words, if you see a track and it looks new, the first thing you want to do is see if you can duplicate that track next to it. In other words, your fingers press into the ground and see if you can kind of duplicate that.
Cool.
That shade. If you can, then you know that track was made recently and after the rain.
Mm-hmm.
But if you cannot duplicate that track, in other words, if it's sandy substrate and that track looks like it's been pressed into that sand and you cannot duplicate it with your hand, you know that track was made just after the rain and it just kind of solidified in that substrate, but it was not recent because you can't duplicate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you want to look at like the sharpness of the track and how much it's kind of faded and eroded, and
it could be sharp but made just after the rain and not recently. Mm-hmm. So just because a track looks new doesn't mean it's necessarily new, a new track. So basically the take-home message is you have to know the weather, when it rained last, to be able to actually give a good idea of when that track was made. If you can duplicate the shade in the track or the impression, if you can duplicate it and it looks new and sharp, then that track was made recently. But if you can't duplicate it and it looks sharp, then it means it was made right after the rain, but not recently, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And folks should, maybe the best thing would be to look around the area before you start trying to duplicate, in case you like duplicate over some other track or some other animal that you might want to study.
Yeah. A lot of trackers will, when they come to a track, they'll kind of test the substrate, just to see, just to get an idea of how the substrate is, how the tracks are impressing in the substrate, and if they can mimic it. So a lot of good trackers will always be testing the substrate with their hands or maybe their feet, and just kind of taking a look to see what the ground looks like. So
cool. Yeah. So there's even right there, even though there's more we could talk about, but there's a lot more to tracking than just, oh, look, here's a raccoon based on shape.
Yeah. And the other, I should have mentioned this earlier, but the way CyberTracker does these tests, you have, and some of the terminology can be confusing. So my certification is in track and sign. It's not in trailing or following the animal. So there's another designation that CyberTracker will certify, and that's actually trailing an animal. So following the animal. And a lot of people think tracking, when they say you're a tracker, they think that you can, you're talking about following the animal. And that's what we generally do think about when we talk about tracking. But the terminology CyberTracker uses is trailing an animal.
Okay, cool. What's all involved in that specialist course?
Yeah, I haven't really done much trailing. A lot of the trailing, or I haven't done much trailing eval, or I haven't done any trailing evals. They usually do those like in Washington and up in the Northeast and Vermont and stuff. So I haven't. If I continue on this path and get specialist in track and sign, I might consider starting with the trailing.
Cool.
And learning to do that. In our area, I'd be start off like with hogs and deer. Those would be animals in our area that you could start to practice trailing. Basically what you're doing is you're finding fresh trails and trying to follow the animal. So the first thing you want to do is to locate what looks like a fresh track. Maybe after a rain would be a good place to start, and then start following the animal and looking for sign, how it transfers dirt to different substrates, how the vegetation bends, keeping your head up when you're following the animal, because you don't want to have your eyes focused on the ground and then walk up on the animal. You want to keep it's kind of tricky. You're following a trail, but you're also keeping your head up. And so that's what they emphasize with trailing.
Cool. So what do you like about tracking? Anything you haven't mentioned yet?
For me, I think it's just a way to enjoy God's creation. I mean, to me, it's like, it makes your outdoor experience so much more vivid, and that's something that you can share with other people, because it's not something that people are knowledgeable about in today's world. So I like sharing that information. I enjoy teaching that information. I think it's cool to have. I just think it's really cool, honestly. I mean, that's kind of it's just a cool skill to have. It's a cool skill that you can share. And, not a lot of people are doing it or know about it. So I've always been drawn to those types of things, doing things that other people aren't doing,
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of how I ended up here. But it's increased my awareness. It's increased my attention to detail. It's allowed me to enjoy God's creation more. And yeah, I mean, I've gotten to, I got to work on this tracking bandana, which is pretty cool.
I got that. Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, because I'd given a
I wear it a lot. I wear it to Whole Foods when I go.
Oh, sweet. I know. I saw you sport it one day.
Yeah. Took a picture, everybody.
But,
I took a picture and posted it on Facebook. Sorry.
Yeah, these tracks we got from Mark Elbrock, us in Wazoo, and he allowed us to use his tracks. And these are the most accurate tracks actual track prints around, and they're true to size. So you can take the bandana out and compare them to the tracks on the ground. And we have like gaits of the animals and how to tell right versus left, and it's just super cool. And the way I got on it is I gave a talk to I was teaching a tracking class at the Houston Arboretum, and
Cool.
one of the participants was friends with the Wazoo guys, and Wazoo was looking to make a tracking bandana, and he gave him my name, and so I got Wazoo in touch with the movers and the shakers in the tracking industry, and
sweet.
we got it put together. So it was an honor to be a part of. So
Cool. I'll put a link to it in the show notes if people want to look it up, buy it.
Absolutely.
Cool. And yeah, talking about why you like tracking and what you get out of it, reminded me of some stories that are in the same vein. I know one time I was out in the summer with two other people and a guy who was a naturalist at a park. We were walking around and then coming back, and one of the guys, since it was hot, was getting a little dehydrated. And knowing the stuff we did and having the fitness competencies I do, we're going along, and it's like, oh, look, hey, there's some Mustang grape. So one guy, I bent down, got him on my shoulders. He got up, got some of the Mustang grapes, and the guy who was thirsty got to get some water. Otherwise,
Nice.
He would have been like having to go for half an hour or whatever it was to like get back to some water.
Yeah.
He was already feeling it. So yeah. Or the other day at a park, because you learn how to observe. I know it's activated my peripheral vision way more being outdoors.
Yeah.
But we're walking along this trail, and I'm like, whoa, don't step there. There's a caterpillar. Watch it. Right. Whoa, I didn't even see it. Then I helped a little caterpillar across the trail.
I think you hit on a good point. It's observation, making observations. You get better at making observations. And that falls into awareness,
And driving. It's come up in driving too. I know.
Yep.
I don't know if how I can't do a scientific test and do like double blind and all this and like a control group with myself now and myself before. I don't know what I would have noticed, but I'm just amazed. Like sometimes, even the other day, like same thing after coming from that park, was driving along, and just a split second, I don't know, a 30th of a second, a third of a second, I see in my peripheral vision, like this blur, and I know it's a squirrel going under my truck before I even have time to react. It's in my peripheral vision. Totally. I wasn't even looking there, and I know something's going by, and I know what it is, and then I'm looking in my mirror, crap. I'm just all, oh, did I run over it? I hope not. No, nothing's in the road. Good. I think I missed it. But yeah, there's so much value you get out of it.
Absolutely.
And then, as you say, just the enjoyment. Hell, connect. When you get really good at it, you don't got to stop to smell the roses because you're smelling them as you're walking along.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. All the beauty you start to identify and observe and differentiate, and instead of it's just a bunch of green stuff and stuff on the ground.
Yeah, and I mean it's like, we don't see wildlife. It's just they stay away from humans, and so to be able to read those stories and to put together things that occurred last night, is just really cool. I mean, birders, people who enjoy birding, birds stay around us, and so birders can enjoy like what, the bird activity, because you can see that birds are smart enough to know that, they can just be up in the trees and stay away from us, and generally they're going to be all right.
Yeah.
But us trackers, we we don't have the privy of seeing this wildlife. So being able to read the stories just makes it so cool. And there's so many mysteries. I think, wildlife and wildlife interactions to me are still some of the mysteries that are still out there, mm-hmm. And I just think that's cool. We know so much now with technology, and I just think that wildlife interactions still provide us mysteries, and trackers are there to kind of interpret those.
Yeah. How you looking on time? You want to stop here and pick up and finish another day, or how are things looking with you?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
cool.
Either way is I'm good.
I could use a little. It'd be nice to get for me to get started on dinner. But
there you go.
And then
it's Friday night too.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have this, and maybe if we talk about some of the other stuff, we probably end up keeping it short because of the time. But if we do it again, if we could, it'd be nice to really develop some of the questions and topics a little more detail.
Absolutely.
And everything. So cool.
Yeah.
If we could.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
for sure. Sure.
Any last words to folks before we wrap up here?
Just get out there and observe, Get out there and observe.
Yeah. Love it. Cool. All right. Thank you very much, Beau. Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your knowledge and wisdom, experience. That was interesting. So cool. So
awesome.
You have a good weekend. Enjoy your time out in East Texas,
right,
and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Sounds good, Michael.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.